and then to Jerry Weintraub doing the Karate Kid movies, and then to HBO, where I was one of the producers of a series called Vietnam War Story, and worked with a guy named Pat Duncan, who then wrote 4 spec screenplays and sold
didn't
every
Pat
one of
Duncan
them.
do Lessons Learned for HBO?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, he did.
I did that.
And oh, did you?
I was in that. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That was fun. Michael Shannon.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we shot that in Kauai.
Pat,
it was Vietnam.
Yeah.
The most expensive Vietnam pilot after Sopranos.
It was a pilot for a series?
It was a pilot, one of the most expensive pilots since Sopranos. And with the success of Sopranos, it was able, I think they gave them the freedom to greenlight an expensive pilot for Patrick. And it was really it's a fantastic script. I kind of played kind of like a similar Willem Dafoe character from Platoon.
Yeah.
He's kind of out there. His name was Hippie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So it was Vietnam, and it was a pilot that got picked up, or did not get picked up?
No, it didn't. I was really hoping it would, because Kauai and
yeah.
I love that whole era of history, the free love movement in Woodstock and Vietnam, and for better or worse. But it was such a different. It's America losing its innocence, right?
Yeah. Well, Vietnam. I mean,
my whole family served in Vietnam.
I think Lessons Learned was an effort to try to recharge War Story again.
What did you say? Go ahead, Jim.
We had done about 15. War Story was an anthology, and we would look for stories from vets, basically, because Pat himself was a vet. And we had done like 3 of them, and then we did 6, and then we did 3 more. And I think Lessons Learned was an effort to maybe recharge and revitalize that and kick it off into its own series. But I know Pat. I remember. I didn't work on that particular part of the show, but I worked on the bulk of it.
He was a funnier older dude, and all the actors on there. We all looked at each other like, I know he's older, and he's got silver hair, and he's got that. That Vietnam dragon jacket.
Yeah, he looks like a hippie from Vietnam.
Totally, you wouldn't think, but we all knew, like, dude, that crazy nerdy old man is a fucking killer. And he had a hot young girlfriend. Or his wife.
When we were doing the show, I said, Patrick, have you ever gone to the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C.? And he said, no, I know too many of the names. Some of them died in my arms. Yeah. And you look at Pat, you wouldn't think of it, but he was in the worst of it. Yeah, in the worst of it.
Yeah, we got stories from, believe me, we would definitely, let's see what the old man's got, and he'd share some shit. We're like, oh my God, don't fuck with that old dude.
Pat had a great guitar collection, and he wrote a script around the time that we were doing the show. He wrote a script that Prince's manager wanted to buy. And Pat said, I'll tell you what, you don't need to give me any money. Give me one of the purple guitars from Purple Rain. And so they gave him one of the purple guitars, a Prince played guitar from the movie, for his collection.
That's amazing.
Isn't that a cool thing to
it is. I remember this one specific thing. I forget what year that was. It was close to around the time I had done Traffic. And I'd known Benicio del Toro since I was like 17 years old. And so we were on top of a shed in the bush. It was like some kind of Vietnam shed with the serrated steel.
Yeah.
And it was it's Hawaii, so it's super humid.
Yes.
And so me and the lead actor, I can't remember his name anymore, but we were on the serrated steel, and we kept sliding. And we're like, fuck, we got to shoot this scene. I got a giant monologue of me just seeing, like, the AC-130 gunships when they shoot the fire down.
Puff the Magic
Dragon, baby.
Yeah.
So we were up there and like, oh, look at her spitting hot molten lava, like this crazy Dennis Hopper-esque monologue. And I had Dennis's necklace from the film. Yeah.
Wow.
So then I remember we kept sliding, so they cabled us in, so we couldn't slide off of it, which is great. Now, my lead actor is stoned off his peanut. I'm sober because I like to work sober. I like to get stoned, but I like to work sober.
Right.
I'll get stoned after work.
Yeah.
That's just my jam. And I love what I do, so I like to be on it. So I'm the guy supposed to be crazy, and he's the one supposed to be freaking out. And they set up all these bags of dry cement out in the field where the explosions were, so they could mix it with the CG and the this and the that. man, you can't put dry cement like that powdered shit out there in the humidity like that for days on end, because when it's time to explode, they're fucking cement rocks.
Right.
They're
They're not
rocks.
powder anymore. So these giant rocks are kaboom, bing, boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, oh, look at Fat Betty. Then I'm like, oh, shit, oh, fuck, shit. And my lead actor, who's stoned off his pee, is laughing hysteric. Like, these things are exploding. I'm like, holy fuck, we can't even uncable ourselves. If we get a concussion, we're just be hanging here like completely concussioned out. And I was like, you know what? Benicio del Toro would get up and uncable himself and get on a boat and sail home. He doesn't like to fly. He's scared of flying. I'm like, but I'm not Benicio del Toro. I can't do that shit. So I had to sit there like a little bitch and just take it on the chin, so to speak.
Well, what project was this?
That was Lessons Learned. No
Lessons
pun.
Learned.
What year were you shooting this?
It was right after Sopranos. So I don't know if it was after I did The Last Castle or before. I can't remember.
Yeah. That was a few years after we had done the Vietnam War story thing.
wow,
So they had gone back to him to try to, get some more stories. Because one of the great things about working on that show is that we shot virtually every screenplay that we developed. But we had a few left over, and I think that was one that Pat wanted to try to do more with.
It was such a well-written script, Michael.
Yeah.
Such a well-written script.
Wow.
It just went off the page. It's like butter, just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. You see it on the page.
Let me ask you a question about a well-written script. And when
Citizen Kane.
Well, okay. The Godfather. We start going through them, right? When you, as an actor, when you read a script, do you is there parts of you that go like, well, this is good. This doesn't make very much sense. Oh, well, this is good. Like, oh, I think this could be reworded differently. Do you? I know it depends on the situation and who you're working with, but if you can, are you always making suggestions about the material if it's not like when I did Tombstone, we didn't touch it. When I did Aliens, we didn't touch it, but
because it was
there. I've done all sorts of fucking shit. I've touched a lot and tried to change. And
well, that's just proof that you're not a narcissistic actor. You can read when it's on the page, like, oh, this tracks completely. Everything tracks. And you fact check like geometry, and then like Capote, I didn't do that. Traffic, I didn't do that. Right. But then there's other ones like Jockey. I probably wrote like over half of that stuff. And so what I try to do is before I agree to a picture, I vet the director, and I want to make sure that it's a relationship that would be collaborative. Because, you're part of a family.
Yes.
Everybody's playing a part, and you want everybody to shine. You do it together.
Team.
Yeah, team. And I love that family vibe.
I do too.
Just the whole team pushing. I love that shit. So I vet them, and I ask them questions like, hey, how do you see this? Or how does this, I don't quite understand this. Because, if it's just screaming, I always try to fix it. That's what I bring to the table. And, if you see the value, then great. If you don't see the value, if I'm adamant, like it's obvious, like you're not going to convince me that 2 + 2 is 5.
Yes.
Like we probably should be working together. Doesn't mean your film won't be good. It might be great.
Yes.
And I wish you the best, but it's just, I like the collaboration. So to answer your question, absolutely. And I more often than not, I'm very conscious of just pointing out potholes. Like I've got the fixes too, a fix or two.
Yes.
A suggestion, but it's not my way or the highway. Sometimes I just don't understand what he's trying to say, and maybe he or she can help me understand that better.
And do you find that the most confident directors are the ones that are most willing to listen to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean that I'm right, but I'd like to know what the answer is.
Nobody's got a monopoly on genius, and the best directors I've ever seen.
Do you know who you're talking to? Because I'm not either.
I'll tell you something that I tried to watch as much as I could when I found out that I was going to be able to talk to you, which, by the way, thank you so much. You're an extraordinarily talented actor.
I appreciate it.
And I've always known that about you. And I want to thank you very much. And I want to get into, first of all, I want to start talking about the Jockey. That's really, I want to talk about that a lot. But before I do that, I want to give you an example of something that I saw that you were in. And I watched it because your name came up, and I thought, okay,
Gonzalez or Collins?
Collins.
Because I did 10 years I did a 10-year stint with my grandpa's name. Well, Grandpa was Pedro Gonzalez, so I took the Gonzalez and threw it on Clifton.
Okay, now I just okay. So first of all, I was disappointed because I watched a lot of it, and you weren't in it very much, and so and that happens, but it pissed me off.
Schindler's List?
No, it's called Wave.
Oh yeah, well that was he's an amazing director. I think it's just the way the edit was, because it was a very long script.
It was. It was a very long movie. It was 2.5 hours long. The movie was two.
I thought it was longer.
Yeah. Here's a situation. All right, I'm watching that movie, and because I want to watch you. That's why I was watching it, and it got to the point where the kid kills his girlfriend. Okay. And it's like, oh my God. And up until that point, I'm like, this is really good. I'm really shot well, acted well, just it's really, really good. And then they let the audience know that the kid has pled guilty to a murder crime of second degree or something like that, and he's looking at 30, and not looking at, he's pled guilty, he's doing 30 years to life. Okay, you remember that? And to me, that the movie, I almost lost, like they were an upper class family, they had money. What happened was he was fighting with his girlfriend. She was slapping him. He was pushing her back. Maybe he slapped her. Maybe he hit her. She went
They're
down.
On drugs too, or he was, I think.
He was.
Oxycontin.
Yeah, she was high too, probably. Gotcha. She was at a party. He was drinking. They said he was drinking. Yeah. She goes down, right, and then she dies because her head hit the ground, right? Fucking nobody does. First-time offender from a wealthy family, nobody fucking pleads guilty. Nobody pleads guilty, and nobody pleads guilty for 30 years to life with the possibility of parole. And that's the type of thing that I go to a filmmaker, and I'm like, this doesn't make
I'll ask those questions. I'm like, how do you explain this? I'll be like,
I mean,
but that's not my. At that point, I was already.
Well, that's not
so long,
and that's not you.
Yeah, it's
but
not
if
me.
I was playing the dad, or if I was playing the kid, I would be like, really? We're going to plead guilty here? We're an upper class family. We've got the best lawyers in town. We've got money.
They come over for dinner.
Yeah, so it kind of lost me, but I wanted to, see you. And
I had a big emotional scene that we lost. It was a beautiful. I remember a bunch of the actors hanging out just to watch the scene, which was very flattering.
Well, let me ask you about a movie. I never even heard this. There's so much content out there, Clinton. Now it's like impossible for me to whatever. So I never even heard of Jockey. Okay, I was not aware of it at all. So I start watching it just because it's on the list, and what a fucking awesome performance. Movie from beginning to end. Can you take me through from when you first were contacted about that to when you read it, when you talked to the director, you said you had all sorts of input and the research type of things, and explain to me, or as if you were explaining, and I'll probably learn along the line, what an actor like you does to prepare for a role like that. And can you just kind of did you get sent that script? Did you get it offer? Go.
So I did a film called Transpecos that won the audience award at South by Southwest. It was a three-hander about three border patrolmen that work on a roaming checkpoint near the border. And that was Greg Quedar's first film, and Clint Bentley produced that. So it was through our collaboration on that we got we had a great shorthand. And it was there's no egos. The three of us together have a kind of a lot of magical fun, and we fix things really fast, and we just fly. So now Clint wanted to write this film called Jockey. His dad was a jockey. He was a jockey briefly. Excuse me. And they contacted me, and they know I used to go to the horse races with my dad when I was a kid when he'd pick me up for visitation. And that was kind of, so that speech at the end was very much my childhood. The movie's got both Clint, Greg, and myself, like a third of each of our lives is in this. So they originally came to me with they said they wanted to write this for me. I said a jockey. And I thought, oh my God, I'm too tall and heavy to be a jockey. But, it's movie magic.
Yes.
I dropped to 143 for that.
Yes.
Pretty fast. And then they know how I like to work, so they knew I'd want to get there early. They knew I'd want to hang out with the jockeys. They knew I didn't want any fluff. It was an independent film. We shot on a live racetrack.
In Phoenix?
Phoenix, Arizona, Northern Phoenix at Turf Paradise.
Yeah.
Wow.
And our budget was $350,000.
Wow.
We shot it in 20 days.
Really?
We had a crew of 9.
Really?
We had no horse wrangler.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. It was magical.
The horse you were riding probably cost more than the movie did.
One could argue. I'd say probably not.
A racehorse would probably cost that much money.
I was riding a practice horse in the back of a truck.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Not to show you my magic trick, but surprise.
Yeah. Movie magic.
But they know I would have jumped on it anyway. I've gotten on a quarter horse.
So,
Those things are fast.
So they said, well, I want to write we want to write this for you. First of all, the person who wrote it, who you mentioned, and
Both
I don't
Clint
know the names.
And Clint Bentley, Greg Quidar.
One of them directed it, and he'd never directed before, correct?
That's correct.
That was his very first film. All right. So you had a connection with him from the previous movie?
Yes, because he was the producer. So they're a team.
Okay.
They're like brothers.
Okay.
They're awesome. They're awesome. So they switched positions. So now Greg Quidar right now is pushing Sing Sing, which he directed, and they both wrote.
Yeah.
And Clint produced it. And then Clint is finishing an edit on Train Dreams that I got a little part in.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So they're jamming right now. They're a hot commodity. Those two. They're amazing individuals. I love them like brothers. They're like.
Well, that when you all right. So they start writing it. You're aware that they're writing it. Are you involved in any of that? Or you wait until you get a first draft?
Once they gave me the 60-page draft.
Okay.
And then I was like, when you get a 60, when a buddy's like, hey, I got a script I want to be sure, give it to me. Like, it's 20 pages. Like, oh, that's really cool, man. Hey, what are we doing? Let's get this going. Let me see if I can call Sam Jackson. So they gave me a 60-page script. I was like, all right, where's the rest of it? So we just started getting into it and I think maybe it was like 65 pages when we got out there, and then we started fanning it out. So while they were location scouting, I was there 2 weeks early. And then I was gathering intel, just hanging out with the jockeys every day. So, we stayed at a very quaint little Marriott, some shitty little cool little, just a place to lay your head down.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be right being at a Four Seasons, and there goes our whole budget anyway. So, yeah. So every time I'd go out there, I would come back and they'd have new ideas and new set pieces, and they're evolving the story. And
was that script not set when you went out there 2 weeks ahead of time? Was it still 60 pages, 65,
60 to 70?
Really, really.
But I trust and love these guys, and I know
so
how
they
work.
Would work on all three of you.
All three
would
of
work
us.
on.
We'd be in my room every night. Going through the scenes, I'd have new ideas, new stuff. They'd have ideas, and and I'd throw them out, and then those two would chew on it and come back. And then there was a point in time where I remember we were going through the scenes every day and fixing stuff, and making stuff make sense, right?
Yeah.
And tracking stuff and answering questions. One of my pet peeves is when a character in a movie asks a question and the other character doesn't answer it, and they go about the scene. Like, what about the dude's question? That's such a common thing. In any case, we go through it, and I think about, I don't know, we're getting close to shooting. I'm getting nervous because I haven't gotten rewrites.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I said, hey, guys, we've been doing a lot of work here. I hoped you guys are doing rewrites. Maybe you're going to surprise me later. And like, hey, Cliff, here's some rewrites. Or maybe you're still chewing on it. I don't know, but you guys haven't said anything to me. And I'm really curious because if we don't have rewrites, that's how much weed I got left. And I had like 4 little roaches. And I said, when I run out, I'm going to get a little whip cracky. It's not bad. It's good. I won't tell as many jokes. We'll work a little harder and a little faster, and we'll get more done. But you're not going to get the fun, Cliffy. You're going to get the more like, we got to work, Cliffy. You know? And I said, so either I got rewrites or we're going to have to get more weed. And then it scared the shit out of me. And they both turned to each other quickly like, what do we get more weed? I'm like, huh? What do you mean more weed? No, this is the time I don't want more weed. I want rewrites.
Right.
Yeah. And like, well, how do you not know? It's not an indie film unless you got weed. You know, how do we not have some of the crew guys? They're all like Brazilian. I guess they don't smoke grass. You know, and taking that ayahuasca step was just too big for me. I'm a jockey.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it simple, man.
Yeah.
So I didn't have rewrites. But as we got closer, I got the rewrites. And then the ending, we fixed it.
How long is the movie?
90 minutes.
Yeah.
The morning of, though, is when I came up with the bones for that last monologue.
Right.
And then it was like from 6:30 in the morning to 8:15 a.m. I had 4 breakdowns, like drop you to your knees, you're pulling your hair, and you got tears running down your face. Because every day something magical happened. Every day it's like, oh my God, how does this happen? You know, the stars are just perfect, Mike.
Yes.
You know, just
Yes.
perfect.
Wow.
You're just like, how did this happen? We didn't like you wrote it in the script, but you can't plan this shit. Like when the stallions came down.
Yeah. Oh.
Remember?
Well, when you were standing there,
Yes, you know how that
the
happened?
No.
That morning we had to shoot the scene
By the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That morning we had to shoot the scene with my girlfriend. So and then the second half of the day we had to shoot that. I said, so Greg, I said we're gonna do the girlfriend scene, and then afterwards with the crew of 9, we're gonna go to Coon National Forest to Tonto Park, 2 racist locations, and we're gonna somehow summon a herd of magical unbroken Mustangs to come down and visit me. And then I just remember Greg like taking in how absurd that sounded with a crew of 9, and he just kind of, I remember putting his head down. I saw his shoulders go down. I didn't want his morale to go, and he was like, yeah, pretty much. I said, Greg, they're gonna be there when Jackson shows up. He's like, all right, let's go. So we went. You can't chase wild Mustangs. You can't chase turkeys. You can't do any of that stuff unless you're really hunting. And we went out, and our DP got a decent shot of like some babies fighting in the distance, and it was facing the sun, so you didn't get that beautiful sunset. And you know, it was like 3 times the distance of what you saw in this movie, and like it works. And we saw it, and I'm like, okay. I said, it started to get late, and we're like 3 miles in. I carried a bunch of gear, and I got cowboy boots on rocks. I'm walking on rocks. You know, it's really dangerous for your ankles. Yeah. So I said, hey, guys, the sun's going down. And this is like day 5. This is Friday. And the other 2 actors, Moises and my girl, are coming in that Monday. So right now it's just been 5 days of me.
Okay.
And then I was like, hey, guys, I'm going to walk back to base to get to the cars because the sun's going down, and I don't want to break an ankle going back. Like, this is it. Like, the sun's going down. So I'm walking back, and it's this beautiful sunset starting to happen. And I got just out of earshot of my crew. I couldn't hear anybody anymore. Like, the 9 people, I couldn't hear anybody. And then I went down, and I saw the water. I saw these mayflies, and I had just this moment of gratitude.
Yep.
Like I hunkered down. I grabbed a couple stones, and I chucked them on the rock, and I watched the little mayflies hit the water. Yeah. And I was like, man, I said to the SAG guys, like, whatever you guys brought, this magic, thank you so much for this magic. It's just, and I don't want to be a selfish actor or a greedy one, but if y'all could stick with us the rest of the shoot and keep bringing that magic, that would be pretty gangster. I'd be forever indebted. But if not, thank you for showing me what could be. Maybe this is just a lifeline. Hey, Cliff, keep pushing and keep growing with your boys and the crew and make the best of every day and do it on your own kind of thing. Luckily for us, well, so that's what I was thinking. And then suddenly I hear this smashing of water, clopping, just this giant, like there's this noise coming from nostrils. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I slowly look up, and I gaze right into her big, beautiful black eyes.
Wow.
And she's looking at
me.
me.
Wild horse.
And I'm looking at her wild. If you watch the film again, they're all unbroken.
Well, I did.
So you knew. You knew already.
Well, no, I didn't know. I would have thought that somehow they corralled that in. First of all, first of all, you shot it in how many days?
20.
And when you're talking about a crew, you're talking about camera operator, DP, sound, maybe a focus puller,
who broke his
wardrobe,
index finger on day 2 because he was
pulling
playing
focus. That's a bad thing.
Yeah, because he was playing catch football with the producer. You're supposed to break your primary index finger as a focus puller on an indie film. That's how that goes. It wouldn't be an indie film. If it didn't happen. Yeah, so I've got a picture of him like this, literally pulling focus.
Really?
With a big thing on his fucking finger, yeah. Yeah, he just put sticks on it. Like, let's keep going. We got to pull focus.
Split his finger, yeah.
So there seemed to be like 3 horses or
More.
Okay, more. But one,
the big dominant mare. The dominant
white
mare.
one, right?
Ooh,
that one seemed like it was the closest, and that just happened. Then did you have to go, hey, guy?
No. So here's what happened. Like, it's a dominant
It's amazing,
mare. So
man. This is amazing.
I'm hunkered down, and this thing is like smashing water, pissed off. I'm in her territory, and I'm aware of this.
Right.
And the whole world disappeared. It was just a beautiful sentient being.
This is outside of Phoenix?
Yes.
Okay.
In Coon National Forest, Tonto Park.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting there, and I look at her, and she looks at me, and just smashing. I'm like, okay, well, if she's here to say hello, and if she comes towards me, she's coming towards me to take me to some magical place. I'm not thinking about heaven. I'm thinking about something here on earth. So I'm like, she goes, I'm either going to parry left or parry right, and I'm going to bareback her so she can take me wherever I'm supposed to go. Because I couldn't have fear. I had to be with her, and I was. So she went to go take off up the embankment, and when I saw her doing that, I stood up and I put my hand up, and then she looked back at me, and I squatted back down with my hand up, and that's what you see in the film is when she puts her head down, and then the tail goes like this. And that's what you see in the thing. So I don't know. I can't hear my crew at all. I'm just being present in case I got to parry left or right so I can go wherever she's going to take me. And then she slowly starts to come down.
Were you aware that they were shooting you?
No, sir. I had to be right here with her. I had to like I'm just trying to live through this situation.
Yeah.
And being 100 present with her.
Yes.
That was it. So I wasn't even thinking about death. And then she passes by, and I'm just having like you can imagine my heart and soul felt in that moment. You know, just this moment of just me and her, and I knew she had the upper hand on me if she wanted it.
Yes.
And so as soon as she left, I slowly turned around, and Adolfo, my DP, they had broken down the little mini Ari, and he had snuck up.
Wow.
Without scaring the horses, and was on his belly pulling focus himself. He was about 30 feet away from me. So I looked, and I said, he goes, like the crew started running up. My producer was crying. My sound guy, we did Trans Pecos together, so it's our second film together. He had the boom like over here. He's like, oh man, he goes, he's tears running down my face. Did we get that? And Adolfo was looking at his playback. Yes, I think we did. And then the sound guy was like, man, now I was thinking this could go one of two ways.
Yeah.
Meaning the actor on set can get an evac, or hey, we got a great shot.
Right.
Yeah. So that's some of the magic that
man.
every day was magic.
Orson Welles used to talk about movies being happy accidents.
Mm.
And that's a perfect example of it.
That's a beautiful story. When you talk to me a little bit about what you do to beyond the fact that in this situation you're helping to write, you're coming up with ideas for people to transform into written words. From an actor's standpoint, what kind of preparation do you do for a character like that? I mean, are you reading about, do you spend as much time around horses? Do you spend as much time around jockeys? Do you look at documentary? Like what?
As much as possible.
Tell me about that.
So,
tell me about, and tell me what you did. You were so fucking good. That movie was so good. The fact that I was not even aware of it, that I'd never even heard of it, and I know your movie, and ever since I've heard your name, I've always gone like, that's a good movie. I want to go see that.
Oh, thank you, man. That means a lot to me.
But go tell me about your preparation as an actor beyond helping them with the words and creating.
Okay. Embedding with my jockeys. Also wanting to be a jockey. Like, so on day one, I was like, hey guys, I said, look, obviously you guys you're letting us into your world. I says, I'm here to service y'all, and I'm going to want to be the best jockey that I can be. That said, so on day one, and actually any day after, but on day one, just because I know you guys might have some questions. If you do, you could ask any question. I'm not going to ever, I'm going to be here to service you guys. And if you guys need help for me brushing your horses, picking up horse shit, doing this, that, I just want to get my hands dirty and be there. So I let them just talk all this shit in day one. It was fun. They're a great bunch of guys. And then I started dropping weight as fast as I could. I started living like they did. I stopped eating past 3. If I did eat past 3, it was like an almond, a couple of almonds. I don't know. I'm feeling ashamed about this. I did hide a bag of peanut M&Ms deep in the back of the drawer that I would sneak. I would just I get stoned. I'm like, well, they're not gonna come visit me, so I'd eat like one. It was like a giant pie. It was like one little, just after eating, just like you're like, oh my god, you're like. Just a little nibble, you're just relishing every little nibble because you're trying to drop weight. I don't want to be the fat guy. Also, we didn't have trailers, so I was always dressed as a jockey and with the jockeys and in the jockey room. And when they're doing real horse races, I remember having this couple that heckled me. Hey, when you gonna make weight? We want to put some money on you. yeah, I'm trying to make weight. Because the movie's about me making weight, a good part of it. So I'm like, I'm trying to make weight. You guys might want to make a little weight yourself. We're retired. We're leaving the fat off the land. Because I can tell you got plenty of it. I was like, I see you might want to live a little longer, maybe get a little healthier, and then you can bet more money on me. I only got recognized twice in the whole shoot, which is a dream for somebody wanting to get lost in a character, right? So I watched a shit ton of documentaries. I wanted to have a history of horse racing in my background. I want to understand who the key horses were throughout jockey history, being around the jockeys and what they talked about. I wanted to be in the know when they'd mention certain horses or certain races. Just so it's an easy thing to fall back into. It's like when you do boot camp for a military film. Yes. They don't have to tell you what to do when you're not acting because you've already had the military training. So when you do that kind of research and you're hanging out with these guys, there's certain things you learn. You learn about the jockey jumpers and you learn about the culture and you learn about, the jockey jumpers are the fangirls that look. Yeah. So they tried to hook me with a couple jockey jumpers. It was hilarious. I'm like, it ain't marriage material, just a good time. Come on, jockey jumper. That's cool, dude.
Well, the good news, they'd be used to small men, right?
I mean, and that's when I break character. They're crazy. Pound for pound, they're the toughest athletes. They break so many fucking bones.
Well, I was going to ask you about there's one point in the movie where you're seeing the doctor and the doctor's, I think it's a woman, she's saying no, and she mentions Lou Gehrig's, and that Lou Gehrig's is something that's I've always whoa. And did you know that was going to be there, and do you play anything differently after she mentions Lou Gehrig disease? Does that in the back of your mind as the rest of that movie plays out? I mean, it doesn't really change the performance or anything, but all that stuff just comes into, and all of that research for me, doing that kind of research gives me confidence that when I make a choice, it's surrounded in information. Yeah. Is that why you do that type of thing?
Without a doubt. And also I think as actors we have a responsibility to those people that we represent.
Yes.
And to do it authentically.
Yes.
That's the only way you're going to enlighten and inform people and your audience, especially something that's as meaningful as that. We did 2 takes of that. One was loaded with all the information that comes with that kind of a revelation, because that's what happened to Clint's father. I believe that's what he got, and he just remembered. So he would share the stuff that happened to him. And at one point, that's a real doctor, so she's just rattling off how she would to a regular patient, and she wasn't ready for me to react the way I did, because the other take, literally, I'm kind of emotionless in my face, and then as she starts to almost give me you won't be able to do this, you're going to have problems with this, you got to think about that, you got to, literally tears just started to drop, my whole shirt was covered, and she was starting to break because she saw what she was doing to me, or how I was reacting to it. Was very like she didn't understand that I was acting at one point. Like she got caught up in the scene. Was like, oh my God,
right.
I felt like and so that take. And it was literally just almost deadpan with just tears just dropping like heavy rain. And then the second take was the more reserved one there. So they had both choices on that one. But it's a heavy thing. And I talked to these jockeys, you talk to them, it's like they can have an open bone breakage, all this other stuff. There is this little homie that they break on average, hundreds of bones, literally hundreds.
Right.
Like they lose track, and it's not a big deal. I'm like, yo, and just hanging out with them, I was like, what's it feel like? Like, what about getting hurt? He goes, oh no, now come on now, mister, I didn't get hurt. Look at me walking around. Like, but you said you had an open bone. But yeah, but there'll be an ambulance real soon to come by, and they give you a little shot, make you feel real nice, and you'll be back to normal in the saddle in no time at all. So to these guys, being hurt doesn't mean breaking a bone, and it means not being able to ride or not being able to walk. Those are the only two things that define hurt in their culture.
I'm taking it those guys don't have a union.
They do not, and that's we tried to. I know Clint and Greg tried really hard to develop to open up some kind of union with health benefits and things of that, and it's just a really and also the sport itself is starting to, it's not as it was as popular as American baseball in the 50s and 40s. Your Secretariat, your Seabiscuit, all these legendary, iconic horses. When you go into the docks or the old research stuff, it's really a beautiful thing to see. But it's not that popular anymore.
Oh yeah, and when a horse like Secretariat would come along, it would really dominate popular culture. The year it won the Triple Crown.
Well,
so you're talking years ago that horse racing was as popular as baseball.
Yep.
Well, what's happened though is that there's content everywhere. So people are looking at their phones. People are looking at their iPads. People are online. They're talking online, and things like it. There's just so much content that like horse racing and like baseball, which used to be something very exciting, something very fun to do, is. And I think our society is changing so much because of devices, and who knows what's going to happen with AI. But it's just and how it's going to affect, well, not my life, but my children's life as far as entertainment goes. I mean, horse racing is entertainment. Baseball is entertainment. Movies are entertainment content, and they're now that everybody's staring at their phones, and I got no problem with it because that's just the way that we're moving. It just seems that it's just like baseball. It's sort of a lost thing that's going on with horse racing. But that I have to tell you, I was really moved by that movie, and I thought your performance was just absolutely phenomenal. I've seen you be good. You're always really good. You always stand out. We talk about being opposite Philip Seymour Hoffman and still fucking, holding, and still fucking.
We were talking about that earlier.
Still fucking holding your own and
more than holding your own.
Yeah, more than holding your own. And he's playing fucking Truman Capote, who, somebody probably in real life that you couldn't take your eyes off of. But I don't want to stop talking about this without saying that anybody that possibly is listening to this who wants to see an incredibly good movie, and now that I know that it was made for $600,000,
$350.
How much?
$350.
$350. That's stunningly brilliant.
We started with 700, and then we dropped down a tier. And I was like, as you know, you got to be really careful around horses.
Yes.
Wow, we're getting into the budget range where this could be more dangerous for a lot of us. So I was a little scared, but I trust Greg and Clint implicitly, and I just went on a leap of faith.
Dangerous that it won't be good, or dangerous
Just
that you're going to get kicked by a horse?
You got less safety.
Yeah.
With less money.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
I
Yes.
didn't have a horse wrangler, like I said, so I was just concerned about, because I'd done a couple seasons on Westworld and had some fun there. And we had horse wranglers, but we still had lots of situations with horses.
Yes. Well, I don't like horses.
I love them. I do love them, but I learned to jump on Westworld. Not with the trainer, just because we were going to run into a cactus, so my horse decided to jump, and I decided to stay on.
But
I've been around too many people who got hurt by horses.
Sure.
I
I was around on Jockey.
They to me, they're dangerous animals, and
Sure.
they know I don't like. They know I'm afraid of them.
But do you remember the Jockey
And-
Circle?
Do I remember what?
The Jockey Circle in the movie Jockey?
tell me
Oh,
what
yeah,
that
yeah.
means.
So the Jockey Circle, it's kind of like a AA meeting, and that's something.
Oh,
that-
yeah, yes, of course.
It's
yeah,
something that
okay,
Clint
yes.
and Greg discovered in their location.
I thought it
scouting.
was an AA meeting at first when I first saw the scene starting, but they're just sitting around bullshitting about horses, right?
It's very
But
much.
Go ahead.
It's a thing that happens like weekly. And
Wow.
It's a community, and it's
Wow.
just like AA. Two of those guys that were talking about, all three of those guys that talked about their injuries, all had those real injuries, and Martine
Was that I'm sorry to interrupt. All right,
please.
The guy who's laying in bed in the hospital was an actor, or was that Jockey?
No, that was a real.
Jockey?
Wow, I love
Okay.
him.
Go ahead,
Leo.
Talk
yeah,
to me
yeah.
about
He had to race in like 30 minutes. Like, hey, Cliff, so you gonna finish that scene? I got to race in 30 minutes. And Cliff's like, hey, Cliff, maybe you can talk to Leo and have him like let's talk about, like, it was getting darker and darker, and like, yo, dude, he's got to jump on a horse here in 30 minutes. Like, how dark you want to get?
Right.
There's certain things you don't talk about before getting on a horse, just out of common courtesy and respect. Call it the omens or superstitions. Or
Yes,
certain things
yes.
you just don't do.
Yes, break a leg.
But yeah, and he had just done 9 years, I think, for aggravated assault and robbery. So he only had like 90 races under his belt. So he's really nervous because, the fight or flight mechanisms that triggered the brain into slow-mo don't really kick in till you got about 120 races under your belt. So he was racing 2, 3, 4 times a day to just crank up to 120. Because when that bell goes off, everybody else is in slow-mo except him. He's racing at 43 miles an hour. And everybody else is racing. It feels
Is that how fast the horses are?
40 to 43.
Okay, wow.
But when you don't have that mechanism, it feels like 40, 43. When you get 100, 115, 120 races under your belt, everything goes into slow-mo, and you could move around, and everybody sees everybody in the same. Slow motion for the horses, for the jockeys.
Okay.
So he was really nervous about that. But in the Jockey Circle, 2 of those guys, one of them was our tech, and his brother was the tech on Seabiscuit, who's also a champion a horse jockey, and both of them had gotten hurt since like I want to say 8 months to a year later. And I talked to one of them, Scott Stevenson. They both can't race anymore. Thankfully, they can both walk, but the 2 that were in that circle talking about it actually got hurt pretty bad.
Right.
Yeah, and I called right away just because my heart goes out to all those guys. I couldn't have done it with Clint and Greg and my actors and everybody around me. Like I'd be nothing without them around me.
What's the name of the actress who plays your?
Molly.
Yeah.
Molly.
Okay.
She's such an amazing actress.
Molly
Parker. Yes, Molly Parker. That my buddy reminded me after I wrapped. Goes, dude, do you know who that was? Like, yeah, Molly Parker. She's a badass. Goes, yeah, she's a badass. She's the girl that you had a crush on in Deadwood. I'm like, what? Now you tell me? Fuck. It's like, God damn it. She's just magnetic.
Well, there's one moment in that film where it kind of almost looks like, she says something, it's taken out of context a little bit. It's just a very, very subtle. And another thing about that movie is that Clifton is that it's shot instead of like this all the time. There's so many times where you kind of see the back of your head, and you look in and you kind of look out, and the shadowing is very heavy. And they always talk about people always talk about actors. It's always in the eyes. It's in the eyes. It's in the eyes. And I'm like, well, tell that to the guy who won the Academy Award for playing. Who was the singer, Jim? Who won the? It was
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah. Who was he playing?
Ray.
Ray, yeah, it was Ray.
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles. Yeah, he played Ray Charles, of course, with sunglasses on the whole time. Won Academy Award for Best Actor. So, right.
Yeah.
Good point.
It's not really all about.
I didn't have sunglasses on.
Yeah, no.
Got to see them tears.
Yeah, I understand. But there's another thing about acting. I was just ask you what this because you hear things all the time and acting and do you think that listening is as important as people talk about? Are you listening or are you waiting to say your dialogue? Are you gearing up to say your dialogue, or both? I mean, and how important do you think listening is? Because people always talk about listening's the most important, blah, blah, blah. Or you don't give a shit. You don't know. What's the question? What's the question?
No, I do. Yes, absolutely. But also, to answer your question, yes. But as we know, we can fake the funk. Like not every project's going to demand a soul purging.
Yes.
But that said, there's a beautiful thing that happens when we listen. I watched Daniel Craig in Queer last night, who played the other Perry Smith, coincidentally.
Yes.
And I was talking to him, and he had these fantastic moments where the camera was just on his face, and there was so much life and pain and trauma that he conveyed that you just can't take your eyes off of him. And sometimes he's listening, and sometimes he's just thinking. And what fascinates me is I love watching an actor when they're not talking. Like, and when actors come over to get coached by me, and then, they're always like some friend, male or female, it doesn't really matter. But as long as they're passionate about a thing and a role, it's like, okay, great, you've learned your lines. That's great. You can say your lines. You can act those. What's the life when you're not speaking? Like, who are you? Like, what's going on in your head? Like, that's so important. I tell actors, like, it doesn't say that you don't wink. It doesn't say that you don't pause and really think about it. It doesn't say that, you're a little upset by what was said, so you take a long beat. It doesn't say any of those things, but that's a way to rewrite stuff that's without words, right? You're not changing the dialogue, but you're changing the life between the words. Like, there's an energy and an emotion that's happening. So I'm a big fan of that. I just love those quiet moments where you're just looking. It's like when you look into a girl's eyes and you can tell when they start to like you, or they're like don't like you, or they're thrown off a little bit. They don't get your joke, or all those. You try to read them like that. I'm fascinated by that energy between people when you're just reading without speaking. There's a language that happens when we don't talk.
Yeah, there are a few takes in this movie that dialogue. You say your last piece of dialogue, and normally you just hear cut. All right, thank you, and it just stays on you for 2, 3, 4 seconds after the dialogue's over, which is to me a tribute to you staying in the moment enough and reacting to what's going on, that you're still making things interesting after 95% of us would say, like, let me ask you a question. Did you do, since you're writing it and you're helping write it and everything, I understand, did you rehearse? I
would have both on Transpecos. Transpecos, I had the actors in my room, my hotel room, rehearsing every night.
Okay.
And then I told Greg and Clint about this, like, can we come to rehearsals? I'm like, yeah, dude, you're the director, please. So they'd come to my room, and then we'd start going through the scenes and fixing it while we were there. So that kind of set the tone a little bit for Jockey. So getting over into Jockey, I'd have Moises and Molly, or both of them, in my room every night to go through the scenes. And Greg and Clint were welcome to come in. They knew that I would I was going to hold down the fort and go through it. And if they wanted to come in later, or it's a family affair. It's like you come whenever you want to. So they were coming every night as well. So to answer your question, it's like Sam Jackson told me. It was like, do the homework at home, do the work in front of the camera. Don't do your homework in front of the camera.
Okay.
If you want to play, that's your prerogative. But there's something special about getting all that groundwork done at home. You work it out with your actors. You have an understanding how they feel about the scene and their inhibitions or what they love about it or where they're going to go. And that, I think it really helps to service how the day is going to go the next day. You know what to expect, your little rocky parts, or you fix it or whatever. At least you worked it through, and so it's not a surprise when you start off.
In between takes on a movie like this, just bullshitting with your actors and friends, and then you kind of 30 seconds before or a minute before things start, or are you all sort of halfway in character?
That's me.
I'm
Samuel's really good about just click, just shut off. He'll be telling you some crazy ass story.
Well, he's done like 400 great
He's
brilliant
got a photographic
movies,
memory
right?
too. He'd fight me on that one, but I know he does. He knows every line from every movie he's ever done.
Wow.
But he says he doesn't have a photographic memory. But he's the kind of guy, like, he'll be sitting here talking. We could be in a looping session right now and doing a podcast. You hear beep, beep, beep. Well, when he just he'll turn and have tears rolling, just yelling at the ADR thing, like, all right, cool, yeah. So I was saying, da-da-da-da, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, how the fuck did you do that?
Right.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Right.
You got two brains? Just go.
Right.
It's like a freaking badass drummer. It's amazing. But I can't do that. So I'm half one foot in, 1 foot out. If I'm very well prepared, I might be able to step out. But I just love the excitement to be able to jump into a scene that's got like the kind of emotional flow that you saw in Jockey.
Yes.
That's fun. And the very last scene was very different because we'd written that whole monologue that morning. Because we got rewrites for everything, and then suddenly all the stuff we agreed on, and we all were out jiving, and it all made sense. And they both didn't tell me about the new ending, which Molly Parker brought to my attention. This new ending, I'm like, I know the original ending's a little better, and this one's a little worse, but we're gonna try to do something really good. Even if we went back to the original ending. So what they'd come up with, and I don't know if it was just a bookmarker to kind of get me inspired. I don't know, but it was just both of us losing and just silently washing the horse at the end. I'm like, but wait a minute, this was a prize horse. This is when the horse was talking about.
Yes,
the horse
yes.
didn't hurt itself. There's nothing to explain why this horse isn't the champion that we thought it was.
Right.
This is an anticlimactic ending, and we wrote and shot for this kind of ta-da ending, more or less. As you see, it's not quite that, but it's not the womp womp.
No.
You got to plan for the womp womp, and there's few people that could pull off that anticlimactic. And I think Petra Volpe is a master at pulling off anticlimactic endings. This wonderful female director that I've watched a couple of films, like, how does she do that? So I was just pulling my hair out, and they came in, and I just started scribbling. I was on the floor with my empty bag, my empty mason jar of weed, just empty by my side, and I'm just like writing these new endings. Like, here's an ending that's big. Here's another ending. Here's another. I wrote like 4 or 5 pieces. And I'll send you the picture because they're like, hey, can we take a picture? I'm like, dude, yes, we're a family. Just do whatever you want, but we got to fix this. So can we take it? Like, yes, it's for us here. So they took it. I'm drinking a little bit left of my Starbucks, like wiping my tears, like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. And then they come back in like, okay, here's what we got. And I started to read it. I was like, okay, took a piece of that, a piece. Okay, and I'm just feeling all the pressure is coming off. And then the very end, I'm like, oh, that's a little wonky, but everything's like, whew, like we couldn't quite figure out the end. I'm like, that's fine. We'll get it, dude. I say, hey, let's. Oh, here it is. It's not him saying be my dad. It's me saying you be my son. They're like, oh my God, yeah, that's it. I'm like, let's go have a good day. Let's go shoot this shit.
Right.
So like so happy, just freaking grabbed my 2 dudes and we just freaking rolled out and knocked that shit out the park.
Beautiful, man.
And then that last shot was Clint just giving me a couple of beats, and I asked him some questions. You're just going to walk out the park. I said, walk out the park? Okay, well, what beats do you want me to have? And he gave me like 2 or 3. And I said, okay, but this is also happening, and that's happening. Yeah. And then this is happening. Yeah. He goes, well, you wouldn't cry, though. I'm like, look, this is my career, and this is my son, more or less.
Yes.
I'm gonna fail. Let's just do one and then see what you think after, and then if you want to change it, all right, cool. We did one take, and you know what happens. I won't give it away. And then he's like, "Oh my God!" He goes, "Don't listen to me. Let's do another." I said, "Don't worry, I'm not, and let's go." You know,
It was a beautiful shot and a beautiful way to end the movie. You know, because I don't want to give it away either, but it was a beautiful shot and it was a beautiful way to end the movie. Which is difficult to do without a horse winning. But you know, I don't want to give anything away. But without a horse winning, you know, and then it's just left on you to kind of let the audience know that it's okay. You know, that it's okay, and that he's happy.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, like I said, I don't want to give a guy. Can we talk about Capote a little bit?
Of course.
I mean, I know it's almost 20 years ago, and there's
Capote comes up a bunch, especially lately.
I watched it again last night.
Oh wow.
I got
Wow.
so many. Well, just to mention, in case anybody doesn't know, I just mentioned a couple of Jockey, Capote, 187 is one of your
Samuel.
earlier things.
Sure.
It's The Last Castle,
Yes,
which
sir.
I could talk to you about. We want to hear about that a little bit. Running with the Devil, Traffic, which, you know, was absolutely fucking amazing. Honey Boy, which, by the way, just you know, I fucking wish I would have kind of watched that whole movie before I had a chance to talk to you, but I only had so much time, and I was only, I was watching so many things, and I could only talk to you for
That's a
a
special
certain
one.
period of time. But that one,
Shia.
is that his life? Is that his story? Because the beginning, is he playing his dad in that? Oh man, that's so brutal.
He
That's
showed me
like,
pictures of his dad when we did Man Down with Gary Oldman, Dito Montiel's film.
Dito's done this.
I love
the
Dito.
podcast.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
so I knew quite a bit about Shia's dad, but I know it's hard to tell because I know Shia's come out and apologized to his father because he changed some things or exaggerated the truth. So I don't really know how much of it is all true, but from my history of knowing Shia, you know, all of that stuff tracked with stories that we would share back and forth. So I don't know, but I do know he's definitely, you know, I think most really awesome actors have demons.
Yeah.
You know, the trick is, you know, how long can you keep them on a leash without them letting them get the best of you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because at some point I think they'll take you down.
Well, of course they can, and it's just all you got to do is look around. And,
for sure.
There's something about artists, actors, musicians, artists. You know, we seem to smoke more. We seem to get high more. We seem to fucking booze more. We seem to we seem to fuck more, whether you're a man or a woman. You know, you seem
still
to
going
cheat more. There seems to be, you know, and and there's something about us that is different, but it kind of makes us special at the same time. So, can you tell me about Capote and how you were approached, and kind of give me the beginnings of how that all started for you and what you knew ahead of time and how you prepared for that? Because that was, you know, to be able to go head to head with Philip Seymour and have him playing such a flamboyantly, like, watchable person. Like, I mean, you just can't take your eyes off him in that movie, except for when you're on a few of the scenes that you do with him are like, I just think you did some amazing stuff in that. Can you tell me, like, where that came from? How did that start? How did you hear about it? Did you audition? Like,
Yeah, that really that probably made the difference. Honestly, I was doing Thief for FX in New Orleans with the great Andre Braugher, rest in peace. And my grandfather was fighting cancer.
Oh man!
And I would talk to him every night. And I was talking to him, and he said he didn't sound too good, you know. So I wasn't sure if he just got out of chemo or what. And it was nighttime now, and So it kind of broke my heart to hear his voice, just like
Yeah.
So I'm just fighting back, trying to be positive and happy, and this and that. He goes, "Hey, son," he goes, I want to ask you something. Like, yeah, Grandpa, what's up? He goes, are you doing a good work, mijo, which means son? And I said, yeah, Grandpa. Everybody knows I do at least, good work. He goes, well, I want you to do something. I said, what? He goes, I want you to do better work. And for some reason, that was like a spike, like it was impassioned, like it was all out of love and drive. And
close relationship with him your entire life?
Super close. Okay, yeah, he was more or less like my dad.
Okay.
And I just remember having tears running down my face, like, yeah, I could do better. Fuck yeah, I got to make a difference. And I was like, okay, Grandpa. I said, thank you, Gramps. I'll talk to you later, because we were doing a night shoot. And then I came home at like 3 a.m. I was staying at the Omni Hotel, which I love staying there, in the Quarter. And there was 2 scripts in my room, and one was George Romero's, like his new film, which I was excited to work with, like a legend like George.
Yeah.
And then I saw Bennett Miller's Capote, and then I read the cover letters from CAA, and one said, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Cooper, Catherine Keener.
Yeah.
And I was like,
they were all set.
This is the one I'm going to read right now. Yeah. I said, this is the one. So I read it that night.
Yeah.
And I finished at 4:30 in the morning. I called my manager. I said, at the time, it was this manager I would end up firing very shortly. I said, hey, bro. I said, what's going on? I said, I just, it's early in the morning. It's late here. Sorry to leave you this message, but what's up with this script? What do I got to do? I want this movie. This is an Oscar film. And I was just like so impassioned. And he's like, when they give you when the lazy managers are like, well, you better get on it. They're going to find somebody, and they're moving pretty fast. So if you want it, you're going to have to audition and put it on tape. Like, I have no problem auditioning, but I'm in the middle of a project I care about.
Yes.
One that I have to listen, not one where I could just do the lines.
Yes.
It's Andre Braugher.
Yes.
So he was like, well, you better put it on tape. And I'm like, I can't put a giant fucking monologue on tape when I'm passionate about this other show that's very demanding, because I got to switch mindsets. I got to be in a different place. This guy's getting ready to die. It was the giant, what's the name of the book monologue, that whole thing. Mm-hmm. Look at that kid. Look at his belly. Look at that whole moment. And he goes, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to give me peace of mind. You're my manager. You're supposed to manage the time so I could have the free space and not be worried about my bills or this or that, or they're going to find the guy. Like, no, set a room and a tone and a table for me that's going to allow me to take my time and do the job that I can do when I'm given the right opportunities, including freed up time. That's what a manager does, frees up your time, finds you projects. So my sister, who was working... she was working for April Webster at the time, Veronica Rooney. And now she's got like Fire Country and Tracker. She's got a bunch of hit shows. That's how I got introduced to JJ, was through my sister and Alias. So in any case, she was friends with A.V. Kaufman's assistant. And my sister's like, what's the matter with you? You sound all stressed. Like, Steven, my ex-manager, was like, he says, I got to put this audition on tape. Well, it's Philip Seymour. Like, she's like, well, Wedo, my nickname's Wedo, which means white boy in Spanish. So she's like, Wedo, like, why can't you do it later when you come back? So it's going to be gone. He says that somebody's going to get the part. And she was like, well, let me find out. I'm like, no, sis, don't. No, let me just call. I know Avi's assistant. I'm like, no, sis, no. She goes, I'll call you back. I'm like, she hung up on me. Like, fucking bitch. She calls me back. You're going to be fine. I just talked to her. Don't worry about it. You're done on this date, right? I'm like, yeah. Because you're going to have plenty of time. Nobody's casting it. You'll have 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, thanks, sis. Maybe I should give you the 10%. So now I got peace of mind. I can focus on Thief, which I got nominated for an Emmy.
Wow.
And then I came home, and I was able to and then my manager at the time was like, oh, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to wait till I come home. Well, what if you miss? I'm like, I'm not going to.
Right.
So my sister called for me and got me extra time, which is the job that you should have done as my manager. Yeah. So I was very lucky and blessed. So I went in. I remember Bennett. I'd studied for both George Romero's, because I was dying to meet George. I knew so much about his history and the college and throwing mannequins off of rooftops, because he just wanted to get a look out of people like a dead body. So I had a junior agent at the time call me And then my sister was in touch with the assistant. So she was like, oh, my God, they loved his tape, and he's going to come back and see him again. So I knew.
Say that again?
My sister was like, spoke to the casting assistant, was like, Bennett loved his tape.
Your tape
my
that you
audition.
did and sent in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she said that.
Let me ask you a question. When you do a tape like that, you just do it yourself? Do you have somebody else doing lines with you? Do you...
So I back then you could do
20 years ago, 3 years ago or something.
So I had I think it was my sister or my cousin, I can't remember. But now today what I do with the self tapes is I record the other person's dialogue, or I have a friend record the dialogue, and then I put it on a timeline on my iPad, and I put it under a table. And like being in a band, like I know all this person's dialogue. So when I'm acting, I've got my foot under the table and I'm cueing him.
Wow.
So you think I'm looking right at him. Even if I got to track him, I could track him, or like I could do whatever I need to. I've got some auditions, some self-tapes that I'm really proud of because it looks like there's all kinds of people in the room. There's nobody, and it's really awesome. So I could change the timing of their cues. I could do, and you got to put the iPad like this so the space bar is long, because if you do it this way, your big toe will start hitting all kinds of shit and you'll lose it. Like it just goes. Next thing you know, you're back on Instagram or Facebook. You're like, what the fuck? You're watching porn again. Like,
See, this is why when I take a phone and do my audition like this and just play my lines, I never get
Oh, and I'm a whore. Like I did a
we all are. We all are.
But I'm like bad. I'm like the $3 whore from Juarez. You know what I mean? It's like not the high rate one. Because I miss my girls. Tracy Brennan, like one of my best friends. Her birthday party. Like she wanted me to get this Sam Ishmael, this beautiful project. It was based off of Fritz Lang's Metropolis, which is almost 100 years to the date. If you watch it, it talks about AI, and it talks about exactly it'll raise the hairs on your arm. Wow. The first 10 minutes, you'll be like, what the fuck am I watching? Yeah, it is fully just talking about what happens now. So his show, I believe, was probably too revealing. Maybe that's why. But they lost, like, because of COVID, like 4,000 jobs in Australia of crew people got just canceled. But the point of all that was it was heavy dialogue, and he's very good at the computer writing, that kind of stuff. So it flows and tracks whether you understand it or not. It'll make sense to you because the way he's written, for some reason, you suddenly understand it. I did 3 scenes. I might have done, honestly, Michael, God, I think I did probably 170 takes in total. Of that audition. So of the 3 scenes.
You yourself,
sure,
for your audition tape did 170 takes before you decided which takes that you were going to send in?
Yes, sir.
170?
170. So they go, Cliff, I said, when's this got to be turned in?
Oh.
They're like, when's this got to be turned in? They're like, 48 hours. Like, that's not going to happen. I just read this material. This is really heavy shit. And I want to watch his Robot series, and I want to watch the second series with Julia Roberts to see how he's evolving as a filmmaker. The Robot series with Christian Slater and Rami, it's very, there's all these beautiful pauses and these silences on top of great dialogue. And then you go to the Julia Roberts series, it's very different. Like, and then you realize he didn't write that stuff. He's just directing. So he's really exploring with camera. You can see he's getting crazy with the camera. Like, okay, you're having fun with the camera because you don't need the pen anymore. Now he's back to that project, the Metropolis one. And so I'm like, okay. And I realized after watching the Julia Roberts one that, he's going back to his original shit that he was masterful at. The Julia Roberts stuff was good, but it wasn't masterful like the other stuff was with Clifton Slater. So I realized after watching all his whole series and watching all the Juliet Roberts series, I realized that I shouldn't be so fast. And I'm like all 60 of these takes are pretty fast. This is not going to be what he wants. I deleted all of them because I don't even want to go back and look. You know what I mean? So if I get rid of them and take out the trash, I can't get them back. I just got to do more. Wow. Which is what I wanted. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And mind you, they were like Monet's because I was shooting morning, noon, and night. So the sun coming through the blinds would change and I had to match it. So I had to move my giant Home Depot lights that I had reflecting off the ceiling. Like my whole living room looked like a studio set. I'm just all by my damn self. Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm very proud. I kept those auditions. I have friends like that want to see it. Like, you want to see that? I'm like, yeah, I want to see it. Like, I want to show it. It's really good.
Wow.
At least 170 takes. It better be good. It better be amazing.
Well,
and then I got a call back, and then it got shut down. But
okay.
after 10 days, so I didn't miss the window. I recognized in taking 10 days, and I tell actors, look, if you want to roll the dice to keep your reputation polished and this and that, we all got to work. So it's up to you to decide, can you do it in 48 hours or not? And like, well, it's not my best performance. It's good, maybe good enough to get it. It's 48 hours. It's not fair to actors, especially actors that, if you want a soap opera actor, so be it. But if you want an actor that's really going to bring it, an actor prepares, as the saying goes.
Yes.
You know, you got to give them a chance to prepare. We're not soap opera actors. All due respect to them, they do something magic. I can't memorize 26 pages in a night.
No, I know.
I cannot. I cannot.
I have trouble with 3.
Just shoot me. One. Trouble with 1. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So you send the tapes in. Did you say that they had a callback or something?
One callback.
What does that mean? Do another tape for us? What is that?
That's exactly what that was.
With some advice?
Just Bennett. Bennett Miller, the director. So Bennett came to L.A. I knew he was coming to L.A. because my sister told me. So the beauty of
I got to get a sister like yours.
You do. My sister's the bomb. My sister, Veronica C. Rooney, she's been nominated for 3 Emmys and actually won an Emmy. The year that I got nominated was the same year she got nominated, and we were like weekends. Like I think mine was first, and then hers was second, or vice versa. I can't remember, but it was on the 6-month anniversary of our grandfather passing, so it's kind of special.
Yeah.
For us to go together to the Emmys, brother and sister team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So she had given me the heads up that
he was coming in.
He was coming to town, so I was able to stay sharp on that monologue. I was constantly studying it, and because I knew I was going to cut a callback on George Romero's, I was able to study both. Is the point of me telling you this? Because I'm such a I got to just do one audition at a time. I can't do 2 things. I'm not good at that. But I knew I didn't have a choice in this case, so I studied as much as I could. And I remember the junior agent was like, Clifton, sorry to call you, but I got good news. I'm like, what? And he goes, we're going to cancel the George Romero audition callback because Bennett Miller's coming to town. I'm like, okay, well, we don't have to cancel George's. Let's go ahead and do it like I prepared. And I'm still preparing for Bennett's because I already knew he was coming to town.
Right.
So I'm glad that you're excited. I'm excited too. Let's do this. So I ended up doing both. So I did George's first, and then and he was really embarrassed
with George.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now you're in a room with George Romero. Now you're in a room with
and Bennett Miller
George.
like a couple hours later.
Yeah. Okay.
Same day.
Mm-hmm.
So I go and do that, and then I drive to see Bennett, and it's just. He turns on the lights in this little office with movie posters around, and he pulls out his tripod and a little camcorder, sets it up. I'm like, holy shit, it's just him and me.
Wow.
Nobody else, which is kind of cool. He set it up. I did it once, and then he gave me some notes, and I did it again. That might have been it. I want maybe 3 times at most, but I think I just did it twice.
Okay.
He's like, all right, Cliff, I think that's pretty good, bro. I said, okay, cool. If there's anything you need, let me know, man. Tell Philip I said hi. I'd known Philip since he, right before he started doing Twister. He played Dusty in Twister.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I know Twister well because Paxton was in it, and
of course.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is pretty memorable in that movie for a guy who's kind of not background, but not.
Mm-hmm.
That it looks like a lot of the stuff that he did was improvised, and maybe anyway, go ahead.
So I'd met him through John Ortiz, and me and Philip and him. We went to because they have the Labyrinth Theater Company in New York.
Yes.
So we met for coffee and we hung out. So it was that was the first time I'd met him and hung out with them. So there's a history there, and then and that was it. I got the offer, and then we went to Winnipeg, and we had a week rehearsal.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you.
I stopped smoking weed for like a month.
Well, that must have been tough.
When I'm passionate about something, it's really easy.
Yes.
Because I wanted to get in touch with my demons,
You stopped smoking weed for the week that you were shooting? Or
No, I stopped smoking weed for the rehearsals because I wanted to get, I wanted to get the goods.
Yes.
All the goods, just as pure and as dirty and raw and painful as they are.
Yes.
And to feel all that pain, I needed to stop smoking because I naturally will fall into these depressions, and through childhood trauma and things like that come up and creep up, and and it's just a way to kind of temper it a little bit. But also, this wasn't the time to temper it. I needed full loads.
Access it, I would imagine.
Yeah, I wanted to access all the pain. So I remember before we got started, we pushed shooting a week, and they were like, Bennett sat me down and was like, Clifton, we got a week off. You can go home if you want. I was like, home? I can't go home. I'm in the zone now.
Yes.
I can't go home. I'll stay on somebody's couch.
You shot that in Winnipeg?
Winnipeg.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Was it in a prison or was it?
No, it was a set.
It was a set. Okay.
So I remember we had a little dinner, and I remember Chris Cooper coming up to me, and I was sitting on the floor eating my dinner, like on the rug. Just kind of like, I just like the floor, and so Chris comes over to me and he squats down. He'd been drinking a little wine, and he's got his plate of food. There's like a little bit of salad left over, and he's like, "Hey, son," he goes, "I've been meaning to ask you." He goes, "How are you doing with this role?" And I said, "It's the great Chris Cooper." Yeah. I was embarrassed, and I was embarrassed to even share this with him. And I said, honestly, Chris, I've been having quite a bit of breakdowns, man. And he kind of looked at me, and he looked down back at his plate, and he fumbled with this little piece of lettuce with his fork. And then he stopped, and he looked at me, and he says, "Well, son," and he goes, "this is the kind of role you're supposed to have breakdowns on." And I said, "Oh, cool, then I'm in the spot." Mm-hmm. I said, "I'll have the drink with you now, pal." Yeah. And we went back to the hotel and got shit plowed. It was awesome. It was beautiful. And I knew I was ready. And I remember Philip saying, rest in peace, I sat with him. I said, "Philip," I said, I only wish we could have like an extra week of rehearsal. We're not doing anything. We got this week down. He goes, "It's Clifton." He goes, "Let me ask you something." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "Why? Does an actor ever stop preparing?" And I was like, "Oh, shit, you're right. Fuck it. Carry on. Let's go." Yeah, we're both going to keep preparing. Just because we're not rehearsing doesn't mean we're not prepping.
Yes.
In between scenes, if you're not shooting the shit, you're prepping. Or if it's until you run out of prep. Sometimes you run out of research materials and books and talks and stories and tapes and sound bites.
Did you, I'm guessing you didn't, but did you watch the earlier?
Oh, yeah. In Cold Blood?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, and I knew that book forwards and back. I still have the In Cold Blood at my house. In all those prison scenes, my Cold Blood book was under my pillow. Because sometimes they'd say, "Hey, cut, you can go. It was just going to be on Philip. You got about an hour or two." And I'm like, "I'm just going to kick it in my cell." So I'd stay in the cell. I was comfy. I had my books.
Right.
And I had original reading material from the era as well to kind of put me in the spot.
So you spent a lot of time on the set in your cell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And exposed the In Cold Blood book exposed me because Perry Smith fancied himself a bit of a musician. He wanted
a songwriter.
Yes, sir.
He wanted to be a songwriter, didn't he? Packed a guitar around with him.
This is true. So I found
notebooks.
The three songs in the book. I researched them, and that took me to Hank Williams Sr. So I started listening to Hank, and I found a doc on him, and the doc I found was very close to Perry Smith's life. So Hank Williams became kind of a soundtrack that I would play, like The Angel of Death.
Oh, that's an interesting.
Those kind of
I'm
songs.
So lonesome I could cry.
Oh,
that
please,
would be
heartbreaking. Oh my God,
interesting input.
Yeah, so that was my soundtrack. Is I listened to a lot of Hank Sr. And that got me in touch with Hank III, Sheldon, who's really awesome. And Hank III, it looks just like his granddad. Like if they ever did a movie, yeah. Like I know Hank Jr. played him, which is fine. I like Hank Jr., but Sheldon really looks like Hank Sr.
Wow.
So that's how I got to that. So that was from the book In Cold Blood, and I knew it. Like if you look at the book, I should have brought it, but it's got just notes everywhere. I could say, page 128, da 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 da. Oh yeah, that happens on 310. Oh, I know you're talking about. You're talking about the da 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 da. That's on page. I had it. I knew it that well.
Right.
It's an easy book to learn too, because it's a fun read. It's Capote. It's the only book of its kind at that time.
The one time I got in trouble in high school,
Playboy?
I was sent down to the vice principal's office for discipline was because I got caught reading that book in an algebra class.
Oh, okay.
When it came out, I read it. My parents were members of the Book of the Month Club, and that was a prime selection. So I read that book when I was like 15 years old.
Wow.
When it first came out, and I was so captivated by it. I was reading it. I was reading it in algebra class.
Did you loop that? Did you go in for any sound that you remember?
Very little.
Did you not see that movie until that movie was on? Did you see any rough cuts? Did you see any?
I did not see any rough cuts.
No.
That
Okay.
Philip did, though.
Yeah.
I did not see it. It's interesting. That's a good question. Yeah. Normally you would get a chance to see some rough cuts.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think that, is there any, I know this is almost I never met him. Is there anything about Philip that you, like you said, rest in peace, that I think he was, for me, watching the most interesting actor of, when I say my generation, I'm just looking like a 10-year period of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard to compare to so on and so forth. But is there anything about him that you thought that he did differently than anybody else other than commit? Is there anything that made him, is there anything that you could look at and just say, that's one of the reasons why that guy was so good?
I mean, commit, I think it's how we define commit.
Yeah.
So many actors define it differently, right?
Well,
I like to spend a lot of time at home studying, and to a fault, I get made fun of by a lot of my friends. Like, oh, you got to go home and study. My mentors, they completely support wholeheartedly. And on Jockey, I only spoke to three people. I spoke to my grandma, Sam Jackson, and Slash. Those are my three people.
Slash?
Yeah, those are only three
I
people.
met him
spoke
once,
to.
had a really nice hour with him one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed like a really fantastic guy. But go ahead.
Yes. So Philip really studied a lot as well. And I only just found some of this stuff out recently. I know how nervous he was. There was a lot riding on Capote, and he was really afraid of failing. You know, that fear of failure will drive us, on top of you mix the fear of failure with passion. That's the winning combo right there. You know, because preparation gets rid of the fear. So you got to over prep. Not over prep. I don't think there's such a thing as over prepping, but prepping more than normal actors do.
Yes.
You got to be
that's a point that I've never thought of, but for me, you're absolutely right. That the more you prepare, the less frightened you are.
Yeah, because there's so many, and also don't forget that there's always an actor out there that's going to be a little bit hungry than you. That's going to study a little bit more than you. And I say that about myself, like Clifton. You know, there's somebody out there that's on your ass, that's ready to take this shit from you. Like, no, I'm going to study more. I'm going to keep studying till, and then cut to 10 days of a self-tape, 170 takes.
Yeah.
I had to miss my girl's birthday. We're all like the agents from CAA.
Your daughters?
No, Tracy Brennan's.
Oh, okay.
Who's my agent now at CAA.
Okay.
It was painful to miss that, and I'm sure there was going to be, there was a lot of chicks, a lot of agents, and cool people and directors, and it's like, I'm not going to make it. You guys want me to get this part? I told you I'm not going to do it in 48 hours, but wait till you see the tape. It's going to pay off. And they know that I'm not just fucking off at home and smoking grass and playing video games or guitar. They know I'm like grinding.
Right.
Yeah.
And all that effort is evident on the screen too. I watched it again last night, and I was just absolutely riveted by that.
Thank you.
What's the line, Jim, that we were talking about when I was on the way down here, that he says about
he was a nice
being
man. I thought so, right up until I cut his throat.
I thought he was a very nice man, right up until I cut his throat.
Go ahead, you do it.
Yeah, I thought he was a very, very nice man, right up until I slit his throat.
And those are Perry Smith's real words.
Yeah, I can almost go back to that emotional spot. It's so some of those roles are just in your heart and soul, where you can literally just delve right into the pain. A cup of pain.
I don't think that I've ever met an actor before that I know is way more committed than I am. And you certainly are.
Oh man,
You
thanks. Well,
certainly
dude,
are.
that
You
turns into
certainly are.
my-
And I've always considered myself to be very committed to a fault at times. So the same thing that's happened to you, and I to a fault. But I don't think that I've got what you have. I'm glad that you're 15 years younger than me.
You probably have a family. You probably have a life.
Well, you have a
I know you've never done 170 takes of of a film for yourself, Michael. I know that.
No. Let me kind of running out of time here. But let me ask you a little bit about you work with Ed Harris.
Oh, I love Ed. Are you kidding me? Me and Garrett Hedgeland have been talking about Ed a bunch lately.
Say
Love
that
Ed.
again?
Me and Garrett Hedgeland. I'm working with Garrett on the Jean Benet miniseries for Paramount
really?
Plus right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
with Melissa McCarthy and Clive Owen and Chris Bauer and Rory Cochrane and Allison Pill and just an insane magical cast. It's really. I'm really.
Are you in
humbled
the
to be
middle
president.
of that? Are you
Oh,
done
I'm
with
definitely
that?
in the middle. I've got a tiny window, and Jennifer knew this. Like, I'm just
Yes.
flying home for first time in 3
Thank
months.
you, man. Thank
Yeah,
you for
I had to do this.
the idea after listening to you talk that you would take the time instead of like doing what you do to come in here and speak to me. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you in is that I wanted people to understand how committed you are, or sometimes we are. But I mean, you surprised me by your words about how committed you are, and you should just be well, I'm sure you feel good about yourself, but I'm really, really in awe. I was in awe of your work, but your work ethic, and it kind of comes down to that a lot in life. You know, things don't just fucking happen. You know, people used to say to me all the time, and I'm sure that you got this all the time when you were a younger actor. After you meet somebody, good luck. Good luck. People always say good luck to me, like, you know, like. Oh, it's all has to do with luck, and I think it's go ahead.
In my younger days, I remember Samuel telling me, luck's when opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah.
And I was telling my girlfriend this. I was auditioning for Tigerland, and it was a chance to play just a full-blooded Southern boy from North Polk, Louisiana.
Yep.
You know, which was, and I still had my grandpa's name, Gonzalez. So it's hard.
Are you billed as Gonzalez in that movie? Because
Not Tigerland, because
I was going to say I
just
watched
switched
it.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not going to have a chance to talk about it, but go
I'll
ahead.
come back.
Please.
Because I'm writing Grandpa's movie right now because Guillermo del Toro sent me on that journey. So we're trying to set that up now as a feature. I just remember I was at my apartment in Hollywood. I'm like, I love the Vietnam era, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And here we go, we're reading this. And I remember ripping a big bong load and just having a good old time reading this thing. And then I'm reading Private Miter and this giant monologue about being a butcher. And I'm just a butcher, boss. That's what I do. I cut meat for a living. I'm a real butcher. You know, my father used to say, oh, take that ring and put it in his nose. Won't you pull around from that little nose ring? You know, because I'm led by the pussy. So it's this, I'm reading this bong, I'm like, oh God, I can't smoke anymore. I dumped my bong out, I cleaned it, I got some cranberry juice because I read that this would make you fucking detox. I'm like, I need all these brain cells. God, this is a giant fucking monologue. I got 7 days to detox. Cool. 7 days to do this monologue. I could do it. So I'm literally cramming. I get in there, and I'm not going to mention the other actors in there because they're dear friends of mine. I love them to death, but they know who they are. I've mentioned them before, so I'm not going to mention them now. But I told my girl, this is what I like to do. When you're really, truly prepared, you know, because you know how it is when you're in Joel Schumacher, this is a new hot Vietnam film. They're trying to make some stars, and they're going to have some stars in it already, some great actors. So, you know, everybody's like, doing that last minute, okay, remember that cue line? Don't drop that cue. That's where I go into my emotions. You know, don't forget that. That's where I do this. So all these things, and I see everybody scrambling to the screen. You hear the pages, and I'm wearing my olive military pants, a period Vietnam, my military boots that I got from Dead President set. The the military stuff that I did. There was also Vietnam.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting down there and I sit in the chair and I grab my script and I had this down because I practiced it. I would just put my script like this and I let it go because it would fall flat and it would go real loud. And then I'd be like, and then everybody's like, oh God, oh shit. They panic. And that's literally what I did. And I told my guys just some shit I used to do to fuck with people. And it would hit flat, loud, and just echo in the hallway while everybody's in their little chairs. And, my friends are looking up, and I'm just like, and then one of my buddies like, yo, what are you doing all dressed up in a camouflage? I mean, in your army pants. I'm like, oh, well, I'm auditioning for a Vietnam movie, and if I get it, it's kind of like Halloween, but I get a movie. What are you dressed as? Oh, you're reading for the same thing, but you're your civvies. Okay, that's cool. So I just like to go that little extra bit. And I remember that being such an important role in my career because I had an agent at the time, Scott Melrose, and my manager, they both told me I would never play Southern for Joel Schumacher. And that was when I was trying to go after this role, and I think it was Runaway Train or Runaway Jury.
Probably Jury.
And Joel Schumacher was attached originally.
Yeah.
And I remember Samuel saying, Cliff, there's this little cool Southern role in this thing. Maybe you could do that. I was like, man, if I can just get a role validated by Joel Schumacher, that'd be great. Maybe 3 days is fine. A little 3-day role.
Yeah.
And they said, we're not really going to go Latino and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm not trying to play him Latino. I'm an actor. I'm coming in to be a Southern guy as written.
Yeah.
And then they end up giving it to somebody that not only is not Southern, not Mexican either, but looks way more Mexican than me. And it was Cliff Curtis, who I'm a huge fan of. He's a beautiful, wonderful, amazing Maori actor. And he's played Latino before, and he's a badass. We're actually both fans of each other's work because we met each other like, I'm a fan. Like, you're just like excited to meet somebody whose work you admire.
Yeah.
And he's certainly one of those. But I was like, how does somebody who looks darker and more Mexican than me get the Southern role, but then you're not going with me? You know what I mean? So that's your agent, your manager not setting the table or the tone, not getting you in or not having the relationship with casting. So Joel fell out of that and somebody else got it. And then this film came along, which was one of the leads. It wasn't even a little role.
Yes, it was.
But at that point I was like, maybe I should just hang up my gun belt and just be that little inboxed Mexican, or Puerto Rican or Cuban. It's all Mexican in Hollywood. They don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Latino, Mexican, Cuban, Puerto Rican. It's all the same to them.
It's kind of hard for us white people to fucking.
You know what a Cuban and Puerto Rican sounds like versus a West Coast Mexican Latino. It's such a different accent. So it was just interesting to have that happen. And I remember going in there and Mally Finn, rest in peace, who found like some of the greatest discoveries of talent.
Yeah.
She was such a special she casted actors by their talent, not your national cultural makeup.
Yes.
She's not trying to cast a nationalistic, I need a third this, a fifth that, a half of this, a quarter of that. It's like, I want the best talent. And that's what she went for. That's why she found great actors. And I just remember my triggers were a little off on that emotional scene. So, your triggers are a little off. It's usually a cathartic crying and you're done. But the trigger was off such that like it was like leaving the faucet on. I just broke in and started crying at the end of that monologue, and I couldn't control it. I was dry heaving a little bit, just like, oh, fuck. And I just remember Joel hugging me saying, it's good, it's good. And I remember my manager is playing this phone call for me going, Clifton, you're not going to believe what happened. Like, what? I'm like, oh, did I do something bad? Am I going to HR again? I'm like, what's going on? And then it's like, no, it's Joel. Joel says, I can count the top auditions of my entire career in one hand, and Clifton Gonzalez is one of them. And I just remember crying because I'm like, wow, I know I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy. I'm a talented enough actor that I can just act. And I've always been a mimic of all kinds of nationalities.
I was just going to say that was a very good rendition of Joel Schumacher because we talked a little bit about Joel Schumacher on the show before because I was up for him for a couple of.
Wow, I bet you were a fave of his. I bet. I can see. So Joel, Look, you and Boz are gonna be behind this deuce and a half.
This is him right here.
This deuce and a half is so fucking loud. This fucking bitch. Like, now, Miter, when you do this scene, you're gonna have to really give me a lot. I'm like, we haven't shot anything, Joel. I said, how tight are we? He goes, and I said, it's right here, baby. You're going to tell me less is more? Let me tell you something, Mr. Collins. Less is fucking less. I need more from you. Okay, you little bitch. Okay, I want to give you more. Ready? Let's just do it. I want to give you more. And then I'm going to tone it down myself. Yeah, so we're both running behind the 2.5 ton Army truck. You know, you could have been a diva on this one. You're being very good. Clifton.
Didn't he start out as a hairdresser or the costume person?
Yeah.
I think it was a costume.
And then he was like, do you know anything about Vietnam, Clifton? Because I'm just a fucking queen from Yonkers. I don't know a goddamn thing about Vietnam. All right, you girls are doing a great job. Come on, we're running out of light. Run. Let's go. Run. Rest in peace. I loved him.
Yeah.
He was a client of ours at ICM. He was a client of Berg's, and you're just nailing him perfectly.
Yeah, I met with him on a few times, a few different projects, and we've talked about him for a while. Listen, we're at 131 minutes, which is about
we're about out of time now, but I just can't let you go without talking to you a bit about Westworld.
Okay,
because I love a TV show. I love a limited series. I love movies, but that first season of Westworld, I think, is one of, if not the greatest, just single seasons of any show ever. That and like True Detective season 1 are my 2 favorites. And you can name other shows like Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, Sopranos had great seasons, but it kind of needs the rest of the show along with it. That season could just live on its own as its own thing. So I'm just so curious to know what your experience was like working on that show, working with Jonathan Nolan, and especially all those scenes you had with Ed Harris. You guys are just playing off each other so great. So I got to hear what it was like on Westworld.
Yeah, please, man. I loved working with Ed. And then my grandma's like, he's like, I don't have money to go to Hollywood. He goes, no, we're paying for your ticket. $300, first class ticket. Like, what? So my grandma's like, hey, Pedro, they're giving you $300. Well, I got to show up. Pa que me clavo el dinero, so I could pocket the money. So he took the $300, bought a $26 Greyhound ticket.
Yeah.
Took the bus early.
Sounds like
gave
me
grandma
early in my career with the first class airline tickets.
Yeah,
Screen
we all
Actors
did that.
My cameras are back up now. Sorry,
Awesome.
it went
All right.
down right as I was asking
No
you
worries,
about one of my
brother.
favorite shows.
You want to
Westworld.
finish that? Say the last line. Or you want him to just?
It was just, I just want to hear about your experience working on the show, reading the script, working with Jonathan Nolan, and of course Ed Harris through all those great scenes that you had.
So they do a lot of research in the best way possible. There's nothing better when you talk to a filmmaker and they know everything and have the answers or collaborate with you.
Yes.
So that said, I remember Nolan saying, like, Cliffy, it's really beautiful thing being able to write towards your legacy after all the research I've been doing. And his eyes were just lit up, and it was a beautiful thing. Both JJ and Jonah, JJ Abrams, was one of the producers on it. They both found out that I had Grandpa's gun belt from Rio Bravo. Yeah. So they both called me and said, would you ever consider wearing Grandpa's gun belt? And then we'll make a second one for the stuntman. I was like, hell yeah, I will wear it. I said, Grandpa would be smiling down upon us. He'd be mad if I wasn't wearing it. So the gun belt in Westworld is my gun belt. But I told this story not that long ago. I'd done my research on Ed. I'd been a fan for a long time.
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris.
Yeah.
So that said, I started studying all his lines. So when he would say, scripty, what the fuck's my line? God damn, what's my line? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry I said the F word. What the fuck's my line? And then she'd be like, da-da-da-da. So I knew this. So I'm like, I'm trying to win him over, So I'm showing up prepared on my P's and Q's. Let me learn his lines. But I don't know how he's going to take that. So you gotta tread lightly and see, make sure it's not too deep.
Yeah. You don't want to be mocking him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, what's my line? I was like, I think you say, like you need just a little something to get the gears moving.
Yes.
And he's like, oh yeah, kid, that's it. I got it. Let's speed. Let's go. Thanks, kid. So we did that. I was like, all right, I'm starting to get in a little bit.
Were you shooting that on film or were you not?
Yes.
You shot that on film.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
And then we had a moment when he kills my wife, and I'm holding my daughter.
Oh yeah.
And it was that moment
yeah.
where I just studied my ass off. I'm just feeling the pain all day long. There's no getting out of this one. I need to bring this home. And I just remember he was a good 40 feet away from me, maybe further. And I do the scene, and then he kills my wife. I got a little tear, and my daughter's there, and then they yell, "Cut!" And I just see him, and he's looking at me with that giant pistol in his hand. He comes marching over to real serious, and he's just pointing at me, and he's got his teeth clenched, like, yes, 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 yes. And I'm like, what the fuck? And he comes up and he kicks me so fucking hard in my boot. My whole foot goes, poosh. He goes, yes. He goes, that's how you fucking do a scene. Like this kid right here. And as soon as he hit my foot and kicked it so hard, it moved in the sand. I was like, God damn, I hope that leaves a mark. I might get a tattoo of where he kicked me. That's one of my stripes. I was so proud. But
wow.
in response to, and then like the second season I'm working with, and we had a moment where we were shooting in Vasquez Rocks.
Yes.
Crazy
yes.
things.
Yes. Yep.
So, hey guys, it's going to be a good 45 minutes if you want to get off your horses.
Yep.
Get off our high horses. And then Ed's like, hey kid, I'm going to go up here. I don't know what you're going to do. So I'm right behind you, Chief. And then I started following him. We go up this ginormous fucking mountain. We plateau. I can't even hear my crew. They're like this big down there.
Yep.
Then we go to another one. Like, I don't even know what's on the other side. It could be a cliff, and we're both dead. I don't have no fucking clue. And I don't think Ed knows either. But he rides a lot. So he gets up there, and now it's super quiet, super serene. Like you hear the whoo. You don't hear cars. You don't hear car alarms. You don't hear gunshots, noises. I don't hear the crew. The crew's tiny. They're like this, way down there. I'm like, wow, this is just like the real 1800s. And I'm on a horse. I'm wearing my granddad's gun belt. That probably would have happened too. The guy next to me is on a beautiful black horse. Looks like strikingly like the Man in Black from, the original Yul Brynner. But he bears a striking resemblance to Ed fucking Harris. Because it is Ed Harris. All right, shut up, stupid. He's your friend. Just hang out. Be cool. Be cool, bitch. Be cool. Fucking Ed Harris, Man in Black. What are you doing on the horse? Oh, God, I'm going to die. Shit. I got to get back to set. And I hear a horse coming up the hill. Guys, we need one to shoot. Like, yeah, let's get back to shooting. I'm going to fanboy too hard here. Like 2 years later, like, hey, buddy, like I'm super, super chummy because I'm fanboying. It's like trying to pull it back. So I still have those pinch me moments. It's great to like sit with somebody like yourself and your lineage and all the work that you've done, and work with somebody like Ed and have those moments. It's like we love what we do.
Yeah, we do.
And every now and then you get a gig that just the check, unfortunately, especially in today's climate, which is hard. So the passion projects are harder to find. But the upside is you get the indies, or you get people, real filmmakers like Lisa Joy and Nolan, that make a difference, no matter what medium they're working in.
Yeah. Ed and I, we'll just kind of end with this a little bit, but Ed and I, we were always opposite each other. He was always the bad guy. I was always the good guy, depending on how
Sure.
Yeah. So
is that how the Abyss went?
What?
Is that how the Abyss went?
Yeah. That's so therefore, I didn't spend a lot of time with Ed. I didn't spend.
It's a character thing, not.
It's
friendly.
kind of or
a little bit of both.
And tell me, this is what I was going to ask you earlier. Usually, if I'm on a set, and Ed Harris is one of them, and I'm one of me and my group, I don't tend to socialize. I don't tend to spend time on the set hanging out with Ed Harris, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio in this certain situation, and some others. I kind of hang with my group as I did when I did Tombstone.
Sure.
It used to be me and Stephen Lang and Powers Booth and John so then I did The Rock, and he was one of them, and I played the Navy SEAL. So like
Sure.
I really never had to go. The thing about Ed, I always felt like was that he truly was a man, kind of what I considered a man's man. He kind of a little bit older than me, but I always try to describe him as he'd be going to work in his pickup truck. I'd be going to work.
He still has a truck.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'd be going to work in my new blue Mercedes coupe, right? I'd be smoking Camel non-filters. I mean, he'd be smoking Camels without filters. I don't know if he did then, but he was smoking Camel, no filters.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was smoking, Marlboro Whites or whatever. And then I would go running, go jogging, or go riding a bike. He'd be fucking hitting a bag, And so it was kind of a real man's man. We did have a bet in the World Series that year when he was a big LA Dodgers.
Loves baseball. Loves it.
Yeah, going back to
I got him a recurve bow when he got nominated for an Emmy. Because I remember him going, he was watching Zahn, this amazing native actor. He's insanely talented.
I know Zahn. I used to play racquetball with him all the time. I know Zahn very well. He's got that series now, right?
Yeah. He's
so happy for him. He was around for like,
Love him to death. He's just a special human.
Yeah. I haven't seen him for 15 years, but I spent almost every day for a 10-year period of time hanging out with him, and that was when he was struggling. He had a heart. He had a heart issue and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He had a close call on Westworld too, but there was a moment where Ed "Hey kid," I said, "Yeah, just look at that because I want one of those." And I'm like watching Zom bareback this horse. I'm like, "Oh, like one of those horses?" He says, "No, kid." He goes, "Oh, the recurve."
The what?
The recurve bow. So the compound bow's got the gears, right? You can hold it forever. The recurve, you got to pull and let go.
Okay.
You pull, let go, because you're not going to be able to hold just the regular string.
Okay.
And I locked it. I never said nothing to Ed, and I just remembered that. I said, this motherfucker gets nominated. I want to get him a recurve. So I did. I managed to get his home address. I FedExed him, and I just got a crazy text of him just broken up, like, oh, fuck, kid, shit, God, fuck. So I knew he was like affected. Gee, kid, I love this thing.
He was deeply touched.
Yeah, I knew he was touched. I was up practically crying just from the text because I could tell he was choked up. He couldn't even text. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, listen. Thank you for taking the time for fucking how busy you are. And, I have a feeling as soon as you walk out of this door, you're going to fucking be thinking about, your work. You probably were while we were doing this. So
No, not at all. I'm present with you. This meant everything to me. So I wanted to be 100 with you.
Thank you fucking Ace so much for taking the time.
Please, brother, my pleasure.
This has been amazing. And you're a phenomenal actor. And I look forward to seeing. You've got an incredible future in front of you, and thank you.
Yeah, brother, my pleasure. Let's do it again.
Okay.
That'd be dope.